Johanna von Puttkamer was born into a family of great social standing in Prussia, a kingdom that lay at the heart of a changing Europe. The early 19th century was a time of transformation in both politics and society, and Johanna's birth in 1824 placed her right in the midst of these pivotal shifts. Her family, the von Puttkamers, were part of the Prussian nobility, and like many noble families of the time, their life was defined by strict social codes, political alliances, and a strong sense of duty to the state. Johanna's father, Karl von Puttkamer, was a well-established member of the Prussian military elite, serving in various diplomatic and military positions throughout his career. He was a man of discipline and order, traits that he passed down to his children. Her mother, Wilhelmine von Puttkamer, came from a family of similar aristocratic standing and was known for her grace, intelligence, and devotion to her family. From an early age, Johanna was steeped in the values of responsibility, dignity, and the importance of maintaining a well-regarded family name. Growing up on the family estate in the countryside of Pomerania, Johanna's childhood was shaped by the rigid expectations of her aristocratic upbringing. Her parents instilled in her a deep sense of propriety, and she was taught the importance of manners, education, and the subtleties of social interactions. This education was not merely academic, but also focused heavily on what it meant to be a noblewoman in 19th-century Prussia, a woman who was expected to play a significant role in managing her household, supporting her family's social status, and maintaining connections with other prominent families. Johanna's education was thorough for a young woman of her social class. She was taught French, the language of European diplomacy and culture, and she became quite fluent in it, using her linguistic skills to converse with people from other parts of Europe. In addition to languages, she was well versed in the arts. Music, literature, and painting were regular parts of her education, and she was expected to perform these skills in the salons and gatherings of the elite. Johanna was also trained in the more practical aspects of managing a large estate, including overseeing servants, understanding the nuances of family finances, and the care of the children who would eventually come into her charge. However, it was not just education in art and management that Johanna received. She was also deeply influenced by the political currents swirling around her. Prussia in the early 19th century was a land of shifting alliances and tensions, particularly with the rise of Napoleon and the wars that raged across Europe. Prussia was defeated by Napoleon in the early years of the century, and the impact of that defeat reverberated through the Prussian nobility, influencing the worldview of young Johanna. The Napoleonic Wars had brought about not just political change, but a sense of vulnerability and the realization that the aristocracy had to adapt to survive. Johanna's early life was thus marked by both privilege and the awareness of the fragility of that privilege. Her family was part of the old order, but that order was beginning to change. The winds of reform were beginning to stir across Europe, and young people of Johanna's class were caught between loyalty to tradition and the realities of a changing political landscape. It was in this environment that Johanna was first exposed to the idea of duty, not just as a personal matter, but as a larger societal obligation. Her sense of duty was firmly tied to the notion that she was part of a larger system, a system that needed to be preserved and protected for the greater good. While her early years were mostly spent in the quiet, structured environment of the von Puttkamer family estate, Johanna's life would soon take a significant turn. In the years to come, she would meet the man who would change her life forever, Otto von Bismarck. But before that fateful encounter, Johanna was content with the life laid out before her. She enjoyed the company of her family and friends, the leisure of attending society balls, and the luxury of aristocratic life. Yet, in her heart, there was a deep yearning to understand the larger forces that shaped the world around her. She saw the growing political tensions of her time and the challenges faced by the Prussian state. And she began to develop a keen interest in the world of politics, though as a woman her role in it would always be indirect. The political climate of early 19th century Europe was one of great turbulence. The Congress of Vienna in 1815 had redrawn the map of Europe after Napoleon's defeat, and the balance of power was shifting. Prussia was a rising power, especially after the Congress of Vienna, which had significantly expanded its territory. The kingdom was undergoing a process of modernization, and with that came both internal and external challenges. Johanna's father, Karl von Puttkamer, like many in the Prussian aristocracy, felt the pressure to maintain the old order while simultaneously adapting to the changing dynamics of Europe. These tensions would have a profound influence on the young Johanna. shaping her understanding of her role in the world and the legacy of her family. As Johanna approached adulthood, the seeds of a new era were being planted in Prussia. The kingdom was beginning to see the first stirrings of what would become a wave of nationalist sentiment, and there was an increasing sense that the fragmented German-speaking states might one day unite into a single, powerful entity. Johanna, as a member of the nobility, would have been aware of the undercurrents of these movements even if she was not directly involved. Her education in the Prussian courtly ways, however, meant that she was intimately familiar with the social networks that played such a crucial role in the political life of the time. In the midst of these turbulent years, Johanna's life would be transformed by an encounter with a man who was just beginning to make a name for himself in the world of politics. Otto von Bismarck, born into a lesser noble family, was a man of great ambition and intellect, though his family did not share the same wealth and prestige as Johanna's. Bismarck had an exceptional drive that would propel him to the very center of European politics. His rise to prominence would be greatly aided by his relationship with Johanna, both personal and professional. Johanna's role in Bismarck's life would not be one of overt political action, but she would serve as his confidant, his anchor in times of personal and professional turmoil. She would be the one to offer him the emotional support and stability he needed as he navigated the treacherous waters of 19th-century European diplomacy. But at this stage in her life, Johanna was unaware of the monumental role she would come to play in the unfolding of German history. As Johanna matured, she became increasingly aware of the weight of her family's legacy and the role she would eventually play within the larger framework of Prussian society. Her early years, while marked by the luxuries of the aristocracy, also laid the foundation for the strength, resilience, and sense of duty that would define her later life. These qualities would become crucial as she became the wife of one of the most influential figures in European history. But that story, the story of Johanna von Puttkamer's marriage to Otto von Bismarck, would unfold in the years to come as she stepped into a new chapter of her life. As Johanna entered adulthood, her place in society seemed well-defined. She was a daughter of nobility, poised to marry well and continue the traditions of her family. However, beneath the structured life of social events, fine dining, and well-appointed estates, Johanna began to feel the stirrings of something deeper and understanding that her role in the grander political and historical narrative of Europe would not merely be that of a decorative figure, but one with a far-reaching influence, albeit indirectly. Her first introduction to politics came not through academic study or formal diplomacy, but through the stories and experiences shared by her family members. Conversations at the dinner table often involved the state of Prussia's political affairs, the uneasy alliances of the German states, and the ever-present threat posed by external powers such as France and Austria. These discussions may have seemed distant from Johanna's life as a young noblewoman, but they nonetheless planted seeds of curiosity in her mind. Though her role as a woman in 19th-century Prussia did not allow her the direct involvement in political affairs, she understood that the family, the land, and the kingdom could not be separated from the intricate dance of politics. It was against this backdrop that Otto von Bismarck entered her life. Bismarck's rise to prominence had been rapid, largely due to his remarkable intellect, unyielding ambition, and a keen sense of political strategy that few others possessed. Born in 1815, he came from a more modest noble family, one that lacked the wealth and high social standing that Johanna enjoyed. But Bismarck's hunger for power and his extraordinary ability to maneuver within the political system of Prussia would soon bring him into the heart of the kingdom's leadership. Bismarck's early career was marked by his time as a diplomat, initially representing Prussia in the courts of Europe. His remarkable diplomatic acumen and strategic mind became evident to those who saw him work. But despite his burgeoning career, Bismarck had not yet found his true partner, someone who could support him, guide him, and stand by him in both public and private life. The first meeting between Johanna and Bismarck came in 1847. Johanna, still a young woman, was attending a gathering of nobility in the fashionable circles of Berlin. The aristocratic events of the time were occasions for families to connect, make alliances, and arrange marriages. Bismarck, already a man of political standing, was introduced to Johanna through mutual acquaintances. At first glance, the two seemed to come from very different worlds. Johanna was the daughter of a powerful Prussian military family raised to uphold the social traditions of the Prussian nobility, while Bismarck was a rising star, known for his quick wit and unyielding ambition rather than his family's wealth. Despite these differences, however, there was an immediate recognition between them, a mutual respect for each other's intelligence and potential. Johanna saw in Bismarck a man driven by a vision for Germany, a man who, despite his humble beginnings, was destined to change the course of European history. Bismarck, in turn, saw in Johanna not just a charming and beautiful woman, but a partner who could provide the emotional fortitude he would need in the coming years. Their courtship was quick, a whirlwind of shared ideals and shared understanding. Johanna, though raised to be a dutiful daughter, had begun to sense the growing political undercurrents that defined Prussia's future. Her marriage to Bismarck, while in many ways a political alliance, would also prove to be a partnership built on mutual respect and intellectual connection. By the time they married in 1847, Johanna had already begun to understand her role not just as the wife of a man of ambition, but as someone who could help shape his success. She knew that the road ahead for Bismarck would be fraught with challenges, and she was prepared to stand by him, offering counsel and emotional support whenever necessary. Their marriage was not without its challenges. Bismarck's work was demanding, often involving long hours, negotiations, and tense diplomatic situations. Johanna, too, had her own duties as the mistress of the household, overseeing the running of their estate and managing their social engagements. But despite the pressures of their respective roles, they were a united front. Johanna's steady and supportive nature provided Bismarck with the stability he needed during his most difficult moments. She offered him the kind of personal security that few other women of the time could, and this emotional grounding became essential to his work. As Bismarck's political career advanced, Johanna played an increasingly important role behind the scenes. She may not have held a formal position in the government, but she was an integral part of the political machinery that propelled her husband forward. Her insight into the intricacies of court life, her ability to network with other influential figures, and her understanding of the political landscape allowed Bismarck to focus on his work, knowing that he had a supportive and capable partner at home. As the years passed, their relationship deepened. Johanna was the anchor that kept Bismarck grounded amidst the storms of political intrigue and the turbulence of Europe's shifting alliances. She was not merely a passive observer. She was an active and engaged participant in the larger process that would eventually lead to the unification of Germany under Bismarck's leadership. Although she was not involved in the political decisions directly, her role in his success cannot be overstated. It was her quiet influence that helped Bismarck navigate the most difficult and dangerous political waters. During the early years of their marriage, Bismarck faced numerous political obstacles. The German Confederation, a loose grouping of independent German states, was a source of tension within Europe. Prussia's rivalry with Austria and the rising influence of France created a volatile political environment. Bismarck's goal was clear: to unite the German states under Prussian leadership, but this required careful diplomacy, military strategy, and above all, the support of key allies. Johanna, though not directly involved in her husband's political machinations, understood the significance of these events. She knew that Bismarck's rise to power would require sacrifices, not just from him, but from her and their family as well. In the quiet moments of their marriage, she would offer her support, her wisdom, and her insight, helping him to remain focused on his vision. The couple's partnership was one of silent strength, each providing what the other lacked in their public and private lives. As the years passed, Johanna's life intertwined more and more with Bismarck's political ascent. Her role as his confidant and emotional support grew, and she became a key figure in the background of his rise to power. In the following years, her influence on his decisions and actions would only become more pronounced. As they both navigated the delicate balance between personal and public life in the turbulent political environment of 19th-century Europe. Otto Eduard Leopold von Bismarck was born on April 1, 1815, in the small Prussian town of Skonhausen near Berlin. His family, though noble, was not as wealthy or influential as many of the aristocratic families that dotted the German landscape. Otto's father, Ferdinand von Bismarck, was a landowner and a member of the Junker class, the Prussian aristocracy that played a central role in the kingdom's military and political life. While they were well established in their regional standing, the Bismarck family's influence was largely confined to the military and political circles of their local district. From an early age, Otto displayed a sharp intellect, a natural curiosity, and an undeniable determination. His early education was erratic as his family did not send him to a formal school but instead employed private tutors. His formal education began at the University of Göttingen, where he studied law, history, and political science. It was here that Otto began to form his own views on politics, views that would later shape the destiny of Europe. While his education was focused on law, Otto was particularly drawn to the study of history and politics. His exposure to the world of European diplomacy and the intricacies of Prussian politics was deeply formative, as it shaped his understanding of the world's power dynamics. He was struck by the inequality that existed between the various German states and their struggles for supremacy, especially within the context of the broader European political scene. The first major event that would push Bismarck into the world of political action was the fall of Napoleon and the Congress of Vienna in 1815. As Europe struggled to regain its balance after the Napoleonic Wars, the German-speaking territories were left in a fractured state. The German Confederation, established at Vienna, was a loose and ineffective grouping of independent states. Prussia, though a significant power, was not yet the dominant force it would later become under Bismarck's leadership. Otto, having grown up in this politically tumultuous environment, was convinced that Germany's disunity was a critical weakness. He saw a fractured Germany as vulnerable to external influence, particularly from France and Austria. To Otto, the idea of a unified Germany was not merely an intellectual curiosity but a political necessity. This vision would become the driving force of his career, and it was a vision that he would share with very few people in his early years. Most of the German nobility and elite were content with the status quo, but Otto's vision would be realized only through intense political maneuvering, military intervention, and, most significantly, the support of the right people at the right time. In 1847, Otto von Bismarck was appointed to the Prussian legislature, an important stepping stone in his political career. He quickly earned a reputation as a brilliant but controversial figure known for his aggressive rhetoric and unwavering beliefs. He was a man of action, not words, and his early years in politics were marked by his efforts to promote Prussia's interests in a rapidly changing Europe. It was in this political environment that Otto first crossed paths with Johanna von Puttkamer. She was a young woman of exceptional grace and intelligence, and despite their differences in family background, their shared love of politics and ambition for their country would bring them together. Johanna's sharp intellect and strong sense of duty made her an ideal partner for Bismarck. She, in turn, admired his determination and vision for a united Germany. As they began to know one another, it was clear that they were both driven by a desire for change, though their motivations and roles would play out in different spheres. Bismarck's rise in the political ranks was swift. By 1851, he had been appointed as the Prussian envoy to the German Confederation in Frankfurt. His time in Frankfurt marked a turning point in his political career. He began to make a name for himself as a master of diplomacy, fiercely advocating for Prussia's interests against those of Austria, which had traditionally held sway over many of the German states. During these early years, Bismarck was not yet the figure that we know today. He was a young diplomat, still learning the ropes of statecraft. But he was already developing his unique approach to politics. He believed in the concept of realpolitik, political realism that emphasized the importance of pragmatism and power over ideals and theoretical notions of justice. He believed that the state should do whatever was necessary to preserve its power, even if that meant manipulating allies or breaking promises. This approach, though controversial, would serve him well in the years to come. However, despite his rising political profile, Bismarck was still somewhat isolated. His bold ideas and aggressive tactics alienated many of his peers, particularly those who believed in more traditional and idealistic approaches to diplomacy. His political career was not without its share of setbacks. In fact, his early years in politics were characterized by his unorthodox methods and constant struggle against more conservative factions. Johanna, meanwhile, continued to live her life as a woman of nobility. Though her role in the public sphere was somewhat limited by her gender, she was very much aware of the world of politics that swirled around her. She attended the court and hosted events that allowed her to maintain close connections with the elite of Prussian society. Her role was largely confined to social engagements, but she was deeply involved in the discussions that took place behind closed doors. Like many women of the time, Johanna had a subtle but undeniable influence on political life. Not through direct action but through the connections she fostered and the insights she offered to her husband. Their relationship deepened over time, as Johanna saw in Otto the same ambitious drive that had characterized her own upbringing. She understood that he was not just another ambitious nobleman. He was a man with a vision for a unified Germany, a vision that would shape the entire continent in the coming decades. As their relationship grew stronger, Johanna became a sounding board for Bismarck, offering him both emotional support and practical advice. She was his confidant and his anchor in a world that was often unpredictable and fraught with political dangers. Bismarck, for his part, valued Johanna's perspective. He knew that his work would not be easy and that he would face many challenges in the coming years. But with Johanna by his side, he felt bolstered by her quiet strength. She understood the importance of the political game, and though she would never hold power in the traditional sense, her influence on Bismarck's decisions would be immense. As the years passed, Bismarck's career continued to rise. He became the Prime Minister of Prussia in 1862, and it was in this role that he began to make significant strides toward unifying Germany. His first major challenge came in the form of the Danish War of 1864, which resulted in a victory for Prussia and its allies. The victory was significant not only because it established Prussia as a military powerhouse, but also because it showed Bismarck's ability to align Prussia with other German states to achieve a common goal. This victory set the stage for Bismarck's next major political maneuver, the Austro-Prussian War of 1866. Bismarck's plan was to isolate Austria diplomatically and provoke a war that would lead to the exclusion of Austria from German affairs. The success of this war and the subsequent creation of the North German Confederation was a major milestone in Bismarck's quest to unify Germany under Prussian leadership. Throughout these turbulent years, Johanna stood by him, offering him the kind of steadfast support that only a partner with deep understanding could provide. As Bismarck's success mounted, so did his influence on Europe. He became one of the most powerful men in Europe, and his vision for a unified Germany was taking shape. But through it all, Johanna remained the constant figure in his life. She may not have been directly involved in the politics of the time, but her presence in his life was crucial to his success. In the world of 19th-century Prussia, marriages were not solely the union of two individuals but the strategic merging of families and political influence. Johanna von Puttkamer, born into the aristocratic world of noble Prussian families, was accustomed to the idea of an arranged marriage, as were most young women of her class. However, when Johanna met Otto von Bismarck in 1847, it was not a marriage arranged solely for political reasons. It was the beginning of a union that would change the trajectory of Prussia's future and indeed the entire history of Europe. At the time of their first meeting, Johanna was a young woman in her early 20s, firmly established within the elite social circles of Berlin. She had been raised in the traditional ways of the Prussian aristocracy, with a deep understanding of the responsibilities that came with being a daughter of nobility. Her father, Karl von Puttkamer, was a respected military officer, and Johanna had been trained in the arts of diplomacy, family management, and the sophisticated rituals of court life. Johanna was the epitome of grace and composure, embodying the ideals of the time. She was intelligent, well-spoken, and fully aware of her role in shaping her family's legacy. Otto von Bismarck, on the other hand, was not yet the towering figure that would shape the course of history. Born into a noble family of lesser influence, Bismarck had quickly risen through the ranks of Prussian politics due to his fierce intellect, his ruthless pragmatism, and his clear vision for the future of Germany. He had already made a name for himself as a diplomat and was deeply embedded in the workings of European politics. However, his reputation, though growing, was not without controversy. His bold statements, aggressive tactics, and disregard for the traditional norms of diplomacy had earned him as many enemies as allies. When Johanna and Otto met, it was not love at first sight, but rather the mutual recognition of each other's character. Otto saw in Johanna a woman of strength and intellect, qualities he greatly admired but did not expect in a woman of her social standing. Johanna, in turn, found in Otto a man who, despite his sometimes brash demeanor, possessed the kind of ambition and vision that she had long believed in. He was a man driven not just by personal success, but by a desire to unite a fractured Germany, a goal that resonated deeply with her own growing awareness of the political landscape. Their courtship, while not the traditional romantic affair, was nonetheless one of deep intellectual connection. Otto was a man of intense focus, and he quickly found in Johanna someone who could match him in conversation, someone who understood the weight of his ambitions. Johanna, though raised to be a supportive wife, was no passive participant in their relationship. She shared Otto's interest in politics and history, and their conversations often centered around the pressing issues of the day: the fate of Prussia, the state of Europe, and the future of the German-speaking world. These discussions, held in the elegant drawing rooms of Berlin, were the foundation upon which their relationship was built. Johanna's family, though proud of her accomplishments and social standing, was cautious about Otto at first. His rise in Prussian politics had been fast, and his methods were unorthodox. The von Puttkamer family, though noble, was still deeply tied to the traditional values of the aristocracy, and Otto's willingness to bend or break rules in the pursuit of power made him a controversial figure. However, Johanna's growing affection for Otto and her understanding of his vision eventually won her family's approval. They saw in him not only a man of ambition but one who could help guide Prussia to a place of prominence in Europe. Their engagement in 1847 was a turning point for both Otto and Johanna. For Otto, it meant the beginning of a partnership that would offer him the emotional support and steadying presence that would prove invaluable in the coming years. For Johanna, it was the start of a life with a man who would challenge her intellectually and politically, a man whose vision for Germany would shape her own understanding of what her country could become. As their wedding day approached, Johanna prepared herself for the role she would play in Otto's life. She understood that while she would not be directly involved in his political work, her role as his wife would be of critical importance. The wife of a man like Bismarck was not merely a figurehead; she was a confidant, a sounding board, and a quiet influence in the background. Johanna would be expected to manage their home, to maintain the delicate balance of Prussian social life, and to support Otto's career. But most importantly, she would be the one who provided the emotional stability that Otto would need to continue his work. Their wedding, held shortly after their engagement, was an event befitting their status. It was not an extravagant affair, but it was filled with all the hallmarks of Prussian aristocratic tradition. The ceremony was held at the von Puttkamer family estate, surrounded by close family members and friends. Otto, ever the political tactician, understood the importance of family alliances, and his marriage to Johanna was as much a strategic move as it was a personal one. However, the union was not devoid of genuine affection. Johanna's calm intelligence and Otto's unwavering drive made them a formidable couple, and their shared vision of Prussia's future was something that would bind them together for many years to come. In the early years of their marriage, Johanna and Otto spent their time between their estates in the countryside and the bustling political heart of Berlin. While Otto worked tirelessly on his political career, Johanna managed their household and became more involved in the social circles of Berlin's elite. It was during these early years that Johanna began to see firsthand the challenges Otto faced as he climbed the ranks of Prussian politics. His rise to power was not without controversy. His blunt manner and his willingness to challenge established norms made him a polarizing figure. But Johanna, ever the steady presence, remained by his side. She was his confidant, the one person he could trust completely in a world full of political intrigue and betrayal. Otto's work was demanding, often requiring long hours and intense focus, but Johanna understood the stakes. She knew that her husband's work was about more than just personal ambition. It was about securing a future for Prussia, a future that would ultimately lead to the unification of Germany. And as the years passed, Johanna's role in Otto's success became clearer. Otto was not just a man driven by personal gain; he was a man with a clear vision for the future of Germany, a vision that would require both political acumen and military strength. The path to that future would be fraught with challenges, but Johanna's unwavering support would provide Otto with the emotional and psychological fortitude he needed to continue his work. She understood that while her role as his wife might not be directly involved in the political arena, it was no less crucial. The quiet strength she offered him would prove to be one of the cornerstones of his success. As their early years together passed, Johanna and Otto's bond grew stronger, grounded in a shared vision of Germany's future. Though they faced many challenges, both in their personal and political lives, their partnership was one of enduring strength. Johanna, with her quiet intelligence and her understanding of Otto's ambition, would play a crucial role in helping him navigate the turbulent political landscape of 19th-century Europe. The years following their marriage in 1847 marked the beginning of a new chapter in both Otto von Bismarck and Johanna von Puttkamer's lives. Together, they embarked on a journey that would not only change the course of their personal destinies but also shape the future of Germany. While Otto's political career was beginning to take flight, Johanna found herself adjusting to the complex and often demanding role of a political wife. Their relationship was one of deep affection and shared ambition, but it was also one defined by the challenges of balancing their personal lives with Otto's growing responsibilities. Johanna, while raised to be a woman of noble status, understood that her marriage to Otto was not just a private matter, it was also a political alliance. As Otto's influence in the Prussian political world grew, so too did Johanna's role in maintaining the facade of a perfect political couple. The aristocracy demanded not only the support of powerful men like Otto but also the grace and poise of their wives. Johanna, with her calm demeanor and social intelligence, fit this role effortlessly. Yet, beneath her composed exterior, Johanna was keenly aware of the political pressures surrounding her husband. She knew that Otto's rise would not come without opposition. He had already made powerful enemies within the political establishment, enemies who resented his bluntness and his willingness to defy convention. As Otto's political career continued to flourish, Johanna played a vital role in supporting him from behind the scenes. While Otto was embroiled in the intricacies of statecraft and diplomacy, Johanna took charge of their home life. Their estate in Pomerania became a sanctuary of sorts, a place where Otto could retreat to gather his thoughts and recharge from the relentless demands of political life. In these quiet moments, Johanna and Otto could focus on their family, on the lives they were building together. Their first child, a son named Herbert, was born in 1851. Johanna's role as a mother was one that she embraced with great responsibility. As a noblewoman, she was expected to oversee the upbringing of her children with a sense of discipline, ensuring they were educated in the values of the aristocracy and the traditions of their family. Johanna's own upbringing had been shaped by the influence of her parents, and she was determined to impart these values to her son. However, her role as a mother was not solely focused on maintaining traditional aristocratic norms. Johanna, though a product of her time, was forward-thinking enough to recognize the importance of a good education and the development of her son's mind. In these early years of marriage, Johanna found herself adjusting to the realities of being married to one of the most ambitious men in Europe. Otto's drive for power and influence was unyielding, and as his political responsibilities expanded, so did the pressures on their family life. There were times when Otto was away for extended periods, serving as a diplomat or attending to matters of state. During these times, Johanna had to manage the household, maintain social relationships, and look after their young child, all while remaining supportive of Otto's political ambitions. Despite the physical distance that sometimes existed between them due to Otto's busy schedule, Johanna never felt isolated. She maintained close relationships with other influential women in Prussian society, and their estates often hosted gatherings that allowed Johanna to cultivate friendships and alliances that could support Otto in his work. Though her influence was not as overt as Otto's, she played a significant role in shaping the social and political networks that helped Otto advance his career. Johanna's role as the wife of Otto von Bismarck was one that was marked by both dedication and sacrifice. She was fully aware of the demands placed on her husband, and she understood the sacrifices that came with his rise to power. The Bismarck household was often bustling with activity, as Otto's political duties required him to entertain influential guests and make strategic alliances. Johanna's role in these gatherings was crucial. She not only ensured that everything ran smoothly, but also used her keen sense of social dynamics to foster relationships that would benefit Otto's political endeavors. As Bismarck's influence grew, so did the tension between the political demands of his career and his duties as a husband and father. Johanna, who had always been a patient and supportive partner, began to feel the strain of balancing the personal and the political. While Otto's ambitions continued to rise, so did the stakes. With each victory in Prussia's political and military arenas, there came new challenges, both within Germany and abroad. Bismarck's willingness to use force to achieve his goals was a defining feature of his career, and it often put him at odds with other political leaders, including those within his own government. Despite the political turbulence, Johanna remained Otto's steadfast support. She understood that his success was not just a reflection of his ambition but also of the sacrifices they both made. She had come to recognize the complexity of his character, a man who was both ruthless in his political pursuits and deeply loyal to those he loved. As their family grew, Johanna began to see Otto in a new light, not only as a political figure but as a man who, beneath his public persona, relied on her for emotional stability and guidance. While Otto's political victories continued, Johanna's role within their family deepened. She was no longer just a wife managing a household. She had become a crucial part of Otto's success. The two of them were inextricably linked. Otto's public persona as the Chancellor of Prussia would not have been possible without Johanna's quiet support. It was in these early years of marriage that the foundation of their partnership was solidified. Through the challenges they faced, their bond grew stronger. Johanna understood Otto's need for power, and Otto understood Johanna's need for stability and family. Johanna's influence on Otto's career was subtle yet profound. She helped him maintain his focus during moments of personal crisis, offering him counsel when he needed it most. Despite the complexities of their political lives, Johanna was always there to offer Otto a sense of calm when he returned home. Their home in Pomerania became a place where Otto could recharge and refresh his mind, readying himself for the next political battle. Johanna, ever the anchor, provided the emotional and logistical support that allowed Otto to continue his work. Over the course of their marriage, Johanna's role as a mother, wife, and political partner became more clearly defined. She was Otto's confidant, the one person he could trust with his deepest fears and ambitions. As Bismarck's political career continued to rise, Johanna's influence on his decisions became increasingly significant. She was his grounding force, offering him both emotional support and practical advice during the most challenging moments of his career. The early years of their marriage set the stage for the great political struggles that lay ahead. Otto's ambition to unite Germany under Prussian leadership would soon propel him into the heart of European politics, where the stakes would be higher and the consequences of failure more severe. But through it all, Johanna remained by his side, providing him with the support and stability he needed to face the challenges ahead. As Otto von Bismarck's political career advanced, Johanna von Puttkamer found herself more deeply involved in the political landscape of 19th-century Prussia, albeit in a more subtle and indirect manner. While Otto's career was marked by bold moves, ruthless diplomacy, and military conquests, Johanna's influence on his political decisions was no less critical. Her role in shaping his decisions, providing emotional support, and maintaining a stable home life for their family played a key part in his ability to navigate the challenges of a rapidly changing Europe. When Bismarck became the Prime Minister of Prussia in 1862, his political strategies began to take shape with greater clarity. His vision for the future of Germany was clear: a unified German state, dominated by Prussia under a strong central government. However, the road to achieving this goal would be long and fraught with political, military, and diplomatic challenges. The task of unifying the German states was not a simple one, and it required a masterful hand in both domestic and foreign policy. As Bismarck prepared to take the reins of Prussia's government, Johanna continued to serve as his emotional anchor, providing him with the stability he needed in order to take bold and often controversial steps. Bismarck's approach to politics was not for the faint-hearted. He was known for his unwavering pragmatism, often willing to use force and manipulation to achieve his goals. In this turbulent political climate, Johanna's quiet influence ensured that Otto had the personal grounding and support necessary to make difficult decisions. One of the most significant ways in which Johanna influenced Otto was through her ability to provide a counterbalance to his more ambitious and sometimes reckless inclinations. While Otto was driven by a sense of destiny, a belief that it was his calling to shape the future of Germany, Johanna offered him a more measured perspective. She was not one to shy away from speaking her mind, and while her views were not always as politically charged as Otto's, her insight was invaluable. Her ability to provide him with an emotional perspective was an asset that Otto, despite his public persona as a pragmatic and occasionally cold statesman, truly valued. Though Johanna never held a formal political position, she understood the intricacies of power, diplomacy, and political maneuvering. She was often consulted by Otto when he was facing important decisions, particularly those related to foreign policy or key political alliances. Her advice, while not always public, played a significant role in helping Otto navigate the difficult terrain of European politics. One of the defining features of Otto's political career was his ability to manage complex relationships with other European powers. During the 1860s, as Prussia's power in Europe was growing, Bismarck began to craft a series of strategic alliances aimed at securing Prussia's dominance in the region. His most significant move came in 1864, when he aligned Prussia with Austria in the Second Schleswig War against Denmark. The victory was important, not just for its military outcome but for the political capital it gave Prussia in the eyes of other European powers. While Otto's political genius was on full display during this period, Johanna's role behind the scenes cannot be overstated. The weight of such decisions was immense, and Otto often sought Johanna's counsel in private. Johanna understood the importance of these political moves not just for Prussia's immediate goals but for the future of their family and the legacy that Otto hoped to build. Her role was to ensure that Otto remained grounded, to provide him with the emotional fortitude needed to carry out his plans. This steady support was something that Otto could not afford to take for granted. When the Franco-Prussian War erupted in 1870, Johanna was once again at Otto's side. The war was the culmination of his long-standing efforts to unify the German states under Prussian leadership. It was a masterstroke of diplomacy and strategy. By provoking France into declaring war on Prussia, Bismarck successfully united the northern German states and even brought southern German states into the fold, forming the foundation for the German Empire. While Otto's actions on the battlefield and in the diplomatic arena were decisive, Johanna played a quieter but no less important role. She was a steady presence during the war, offering her support to Otto and their children and managing their estates in his absence. Throughout the course of the war, Johanna was aware of the political stakes involved. She knew that Otto's vision for a unified Germany could only be realized through military victory and the support of key political players. She also understood that the personal cost of this war and the broader unification process would be great. Families would be torn apart, political allegiances would shift, and the balance of power in Europe would be forever altered. Despite the heavy toll that these changes would take on Otto, Johanna never wavered in her commitment to him. Her support was unwavering, even when the path ahead was uncertain. The creation of the German Empire in 1871 was the culmination of Otto's vision. With the proclamation of the empire in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles, Otto Bismarck became the architect of modern Germany. It was a political triumph of the highest order. Yet, behind every great political achievement was Johanna, whose quiet influence had helped Otto achieve his goals. Johanna's role in Bismarck's political life was not one of overt action, but rather one of profound emotional and intellectual support. As Otto's political career reached new heights, Johanna's role as his partner, confidant, and emotional anchor became even more important. Their relationship was not without its challenges. Otto's relentless drive for power often placed a strain on their personal life. But Johanna's steady presence allowed Otto to focus on his work, knowing that he had someone by his side who understood the complexity of his ambitions. While Otto's political career continued to flourish, Johanna's influence remained central to his success. In times of political uncertainty, she was his stabilizing force. In moments of personal crisis, she was his refuge. Together, they formed a partnership that was not only a marriage of political convenience but one of mutual respect, shared ambition, and unwavering support. As Otto's power grew, so did Johanna's role in the political and social circles of Prussia. She became a central figure in the Prussian court, hosting influential guests, attending state functions, and managing the social dynamics that often played a crucial role in Bismarck's political dealings. While Johanna's influence in the formal political realm was indirect, her presence in the social and cultural life of Prussia gave Otto an invaluable network of support. She was able to cultivate relationships with key figures in the Prussian aristocracy and beyond, ensuring that Otto remained well-positioned to achieve his political goals. The year 1871 marked a monumental turning point in European history, not just for Prussia but for the entire continent. The creation of the German Empire was not merely the outcome of a series of military victories. It was the culmination of years of strategic political maneuvering, diplomatic brilliance, and an unwavering vision of what Germany could become. Otto von Bismarck, the architect of this new empire, had spent his entire career carefully laying the groundwork for German unification, and now, with the final stroke of the pen, he achieved his ultimate goal. But none of this would have been possible without the quiet yet profound influence of Johanna von Puttkamer. By the time the German Empire was proclaimed on January 18, 1871, Otto had already navigated a path fraught with challenges, both personal and political. He had managed to unify the northern German states through the creation of the North German Confederation in 1867, effectively placing Prussia at the center of German affairs. But the final piece of the puzzle, the southern German states, including Bavaria, Baden, and Württemberg, had remained outside of Prussian control. It was only through a series of diplomatic and military victories that Otto was able to bring these states into the fold, culminating in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871. The war with France, which began with Bismarck's careful manipulation of diplomatic relations, was the catalyst that united the German states against a common enemy. The victory over France was not only a military triumph but also a symbolic moment that solidified Prussia's leadership in the eyes of the German-speaking peoples. The German states, once divided and fragmented, now looked to Prussia as the natural leader of a united German empire. Throughout this period, Johanna's role in Otto's success remained crucial. While Otto focused on the political and military intricacies of unification, Johanna continued to support him both emotionally and strategically. The pressures of leading a nation were immense, and Johanna's unwavering presence in his life provided Otto with the strength to continue his work. She was, in many ways, the quiet force that helped Otto navigate the complex web of alliances and decisions that would ultimately lead to the birth of the German Empire. As the political machinery moved toward the unification of Germany, Johanna understood the historical significance of the moment. She was acutely aware that the political landscape of Europe would shift dramatically once the German Empire was established. Her support of Otto, both in private and public, was more important than ever. As much as Otto was driven by his vision for a united Germany, Johanna's belief in his ability to lead the country played a crucial role in sustaining his focus during these decisive moments. The Franco-Prussian War, which began in the summer of 1870, was a pivotal moment in this process. Bismarck, through his diplomatic genius, had already manipulated the tensions between Prussia and France, using the EMS dispatch to provoke a war that would unite the German states. The war, though brief, was decisive. The French were decisively defeated, and Emperor Napoleon III was captured, effectively ending the war. The war itself, while brutal, was instrumental in unifying the German states under Prussia's leadership. As Bismarck's plans came to fruition, Johanna found herself in the position of managing the social and political life at home while Otto continued to navigate the complex and dangerous waters of diplomacy. During these intense years, Johanna's steady hand was indispensable. She ensured that their household remained stable, and her understanding of the social networks that were so critical to Otto's political career allowed her to continue fostering relationships that would help secure the future of the empire. When the moment of triumph came, it was not only Otto who felt the weight of the victory. Johanna, too, understood the significance of the moment. The proclamation of the German Empire in the Hall of Mirrors at Versailles was not merely a political event. It was a symbol of a new era for Europe. For Otto, the victory was a personal triumph, a culmination of years of work and sacrifice. For Johanna, it was a moment of reflection, a moment to recognize the immense changes that had taken place in her life and in the life of her country. The formal proclamation of the German Empire was a grand affair, with King Wilhelm I of Prussia being crowned Emperor of Germany. Otto von Bismarck, who had worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this moment possible, stood as the Chancellor of the new empire. The ceremony was held in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles, a place that symbolized both the triumph of Prussia and the humiliation of France. The Germans had won the war, and the French had been forced to acknowledge the reality of German unity under Prussian leadership. For Otto, the moment was bittersweet. While he had achieved his goal, he knew that the work was far from over. The creation of the empire was just the beginning. Now Otto would have to navigate the complexities of governing a newly unified Germany, balancing the interests of the various states and maintaining the delicate political equilibrium that had brought the empire into being. Johanna, standing by Otto's side during this momentous occasion, could not help but reflect on how far they had come. From their early days of marriage, when they had shared quiet evenings at their estate in Pomerania, to the turbulent days of political strife and military conflict, Johanna had always been there, providing Otto with the steady support he needed. She understood the weight of the moment, not just for Otto but for Germany as a whole. The creation of the German Empire was a turning point, one that would shape the future of Europe for generations to come. As the German Empire was born, so too was the political legacy of Otto von Bismarck. His role in the unification of Germany would forever be etched in the history books. However, Johanna's influence, quiet and subtle, was no less significant. While Otto was the public face of German unification, Johanna played a crucial behind-the-scenes role, ensuring that Otto remained grounded, focused, and supported as he navigated the challenges that came with leading a newly unified nation. In the years that followed, Johanna continued to stand by Otto's side, supporting him through the trials and triumphs of leading the German Empire. Her influence, though often understated, was central to Otto's ability to navigate the complex political landscape of Europe. Together, they had achieved the unification of Germany, but the true test of their partnership was just beginning. The challenges of governing a unified Germany would demand everything Otto had, and Johanna, as ever, would be there to provide him with the emotional strength he needed to lead the empire. The unification of Germany, marked by the birth of the German Empire in 1871, was a monumental achievement for Otto von Bismarck. Yet, as the new empire emerged, so too did a host of challenges, both political and personal. The power that Otto had carefully constructed was now his to wield, but with that power came immense responsibility. The delicate balance of uniting diverse German states, managing external relations with European powers, and handling internal political strife would test Otto in ways he had not anticipated. And throughout these turbulent times, Johanna von Puttkamer, as his wife and confidant, would continue to play a key role in helping him navigate the complexities of his leadership. When Bismarck took office as Chancellor of the German Empire, the empire was still a fragile entity. While the military victory over France and the subsequent unification had brought Germany together, the internal divisions between the northern and southern German states remained. The southern states, particularly Bavaria, had been reluctant to join the Prussian-led empire, and tensions lingered between these regions and the central authority of Berlin. The political task of consolidating power and ensuring that the southern states remained loyal to the empire was a challenge that Bismarck would face head-on. One of the first major issues that Bismarck tackled was the Kulturkampf, or culture struggle, which was a conflict between the state and the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church had a significant presence in the southern German states, and its influence was seen as a potential threat to the newly formed German state, which was predominantly Protestant. Bismarck, in his typical fashion, took a hardline approach, introducing a series of laws designed to reduce the power of the Church within Germany. These laws included the expulsion of Jesuits, the closure of Catholic schools, and the establishment of state-controlled religious institutions. The Kulturkampf was a bold move by Bismarck, but it also created significant tension within Germany. The Catholic population, particularly in the southern states, resisted these measures, leading to protests and political unrest. Bismarck's decision to confront the Church head-on created a divide within German society, and his policies alienated not only Catholics but also many liberals who saw the conflict as an overreach of state power. During this period of intense political struggle, Johanna's influence on Otto was more important than ever. While Otto was known for his unwavering political pragmatism, Johanna was a voice of moderation, often offering him counsel on the human side of political decisions. She understood the complexity of balancing political power with the need for social harmony, and she encouraged Otto to consider the long-term implications of his policies. Though Otto was not easily swayed by public opinion, Johanna's quiet wisdom and emotional insight played a critical role in his decision-making process during these difficult times. While Otto was embroiled in the Kulturkampf, he also faced increasing tensions with the socialists. The rise of socialism in Europe was a significant political challenge for Bismarck, who saw it as a threat to the stability of the newly united German Empire. Socialists advocated for workers' rights, universal suffrage, and social welfare programs, all of which challenged the traditional power structures that Bismarck had worked so hard to establish. In response, Bismarck took an unusual step for a conservative leader. He introduced a series of social welfare programs, including health insurance, accident insurance, and old age pensions. These reforms were designed to undercut the appeal of socialism by providing workers with state-sponsored benefits. While these measures were progressive in their own right, they were also politically calculated. Bismarck sought to maintain the loyalty of the working class, preventing them from being drawn into the growing socialist movement. Bismarck's efforts to manage the social question, however, did not eliminate the threat of socialism. Instead, it led to further polarization within German society, with conservatives and socialists each accusing Bismarck of compromising too much. The rise of labor unions, political movements, and revolutionary ideals posed an ongoing challenge to the stability of the empire, and Bismarck was forced to balance the need for social reform with the desire to maintain the empire's traditional structures. Throughout these years, Johanna continued to stand by Otto, offering him not only emotional support but also practical advice. She recognized that the political conflicts Otto faced were deeply personal for him. His ambition had always been to create a unified Germany, but the reality of governing such a diverse and complex empire was far more difficult than he had anticipated. Johanna, with her keen understanding of Otto's character, encouraged him to reflect on his decisions and to consider the broader implications of his actions. While Otto's focus was on power and stability, Johanna's perspective was shaped by a deep concern for the well-being of the people, particularly those who were most affected by the political turmoil. The Franco-Prussian War had been a defining moment in Bismarck's life, and the unification of Germany had been a personal triumph. But the years that followed were marked by constant political struggles, internal divisions, growing opposition, and the challenges of maintaining control over an empire that had been forged in the fires of war. Bismarck's leadership was tested by these challenges, but Johanna remained his steady support. She understood that the political conflicts Otto faced were not just battles of diplomacy and power, they were battles for the soul of Germany, and their outcome would shape the future of Europe. In addition to the domestic challenges Bismarck faced, he also had to contend with the complexities of foreign policy. As Chancellor, Bismarck sought to maintain peace with France and other European powers while simultaneously strengthening Germany's position on the world stage. He carefully cultivated alliances with Austria-Hungary and Russia, recognizing that a strong web of alliances was key to maintaining the stability of the empire. Bismarck's diplomatic efforts, often carried out in secret, were instrumental in preventing Germany from being drawn into the conflicts that were erupting across Europe. However, despite Bismarck's successes in foreign policy, his political enemies within Germany were growing louder. Many of the old conservative elites were uneasy with Bismarck's methods and his consolidation of power. His authoritarian style, combined with his ability to manipulate the political system, created resentment among many factions, including the rising liberal movement. Bismarck's relentless pursuit of power had alienated much of the political class, and as the empire grew, so did the opposition to his leadership. In the midst of these external and internal challenges, Johanna continued to be a quiet yet influential force in Otto's life. Her role as his wife had always been multifaceted. She was his emotional anchor, his sounding board, and his closest confidant. As the challenges mounted, Johanna's presence became even more vital. She helped him stay grounded, providing him with the emotional strength he needed to confront his political adversaries. As Bismarck continued to steer the ship of state through turbulent waters, Johanna's influence became even more apparent. Her ability to maintain a stable home life, manage the social and political dynamics of Prussian society, and provide Otto with the quiet support he needed was indispensable. Otto's success, though often attributed to his political brilliance, was in no small part due to the partnership he shared with Johanna. The political conflicts of these years, the Kulturkampf, the rise of socialism, the challenges of foreign diplomacy, were the tests that would define Otto von Bismarck's legacy. But through it all, Johanna stood by his side, helping him navigate the tumultuous waters of power and politics. Their relationship was one of strength, resilience, and mutual respect, one that would withstand the trials and tribulations of the years to come. As the German Empire was born and Otto von Bismarck's influence continued to grow, the role of Johanna von Puttkamer in their life together evolved in profound ways. While Otto's political triumphs dominated the public sphere, Johanna's influence remained indispensable behind the scenes. She was not only Otto's wife but also the architect of the family's social and cultural life, a role that, though often less visible, was just as crucial to Otto's success. Johanna had always been well-versed in the complex social dynamics of Prussian aristocracy. Raised in a family that emphasized the importance of diplomacy, societal norms, and the maintenance of noble status, Johanna understood the significance of these networks. While Otto's political strategies focused on forging alliances in the world of power and diplomacy, Johanna's role was to foster relationships within the domestic and social spheres, relationships that could be just as politically consequential. Her ability to navigate the social circles of the aristocracy allowed Otto to maintain valuable connections that would later benefit him in both the halls of power and the courtly salons. In the years following the creation of the German Empire, Johanna took on an increasingly visible role within the upper echelons of Prussian society. Their home, which had originally been a peaceful retreat from Otto's political duties, transformed into an important social center, hosting dignitaries, diplomats, and high-ranking officials. Johanna's skill in managing the household and her natural grace as a hostess helped to create an atmosphere of calm and control, which was vital for Otto during the increasingly volatile years that followed. The Bismarck family's estate became a place where political discussions could take place under the veneer of social gatherings. Johanna's quiet influence was evident in the way these events unfolded. While Otto engaged in the hard work of diplomacy and political strategy, Johanna was often the one who carefully selected the guests, arranged the seating, and ensured that the conversations that took place were productive. Her subtle understanding of human nature and her ability to read the room allowed her to maintain a level of social harmony that ensured Otto's efforts at unification were supported by the right people. Johanna's cultural influence extended beyond just social events. She was also a key figure in managing the family's cultural identity. As the wife of the Chancellor of the German Empire, she understood the significance of creating an image of the Bismarck family that would resonate with the German people. Her role in maintaining a dignified and respectful public image for Otto was vital to the way he was perceived both in Germany and abroad. Johanna's sense of propriety, her grace, and her diplomatic tact were all essential in managing the pressures that came with Otto's public position. Yet Johanna's role was not limited to just ceremonial functions. She was deeply involved in the personal development of their children, particularly their son, Herbert, whom Otto had great hopes for in the future of the empire. Johanna's educational values shaped Herbert's upbringing, ensuring that he was well-equipped to carry the Bismarck legacy forward. Although Otto had grand political aspirations for his son, Johanna played an equally significant role in providing him with the moral compass and intellectual grounding that would help him navigate the complex world of Prussian aristocracy and, later, European politics. At the same time, Johanna also found herself increasingly involved in social and philanthropic causes, particularly those related to the welfare of women and children. As the wife of one of the most powerful men in Europe, Johanna was often expected to engage in charitable work that aligned with the values of the state. Her involvement in these causes, however, was not just a matter of duty. It was a reflection of her own deep commitment to social responsibility. Johanna believed in the importance of strengthening the fabric of society, and she used her position to support initiatives that would improve the lives of ordinary people. Whether it was supporting educational programs for girls or promoting healthcare for families, Johanna's efforts helped to shape the public image of the Bismarck family as more than just political power brokers but also as figures who cared about the welfare of their people. Through all of this, Johanna remained steadfast in her support of Otto. While Otto's role in shaping Germany's political landscape was the most public aspect of their relationship, Johanna's role in shaping their family's legacy was equally important. She understood that the stability of Otto's political empire rested not only on his ability to navigate foreign diplomacy and internal politics but also on the strength of their family. She was Otto's anchor, his quiet strength, and the one person who provided him with the peace he needed to continue his relentless political work. However, Johanna's role in the cultural and social life of the Bismarck family was not without its challenges. As the years passed and Otto's political power grew, the pressures on their marriage also intensified. Otto's increasing focus on his work, combined with the growing opposition to his leadership, often left Johanna feeling somewhat isolated. The demands of political life were not easy on their relationship, and Johanna, while always supportive of Otto's goals, found herself carrying a heavy emotional burden. There were moments when she felt the weight of her responsibilities in both her personal and public life. Despite these challenges, Johanna's resilience never wavered. She continued to manage their household, host social gatherings, and maintain the family's public image with dignity and grace. She continued to support Otto through the turbulent political struggles that followed the creation of the German Empire, including the increasing pressure from political opponents and the rise of tensions within the empire itself. In the public eye, Johanna was the ideal political wife, graceful, dignified, and unwavering in her loyalty to Otto. But behind closed doors, she was also a woman who understood the deep toll that political life took on her husband. Johanna's influence over Otto was not just a matter of supporting his career, it was about providing him with the emotional stability he needed to continue the immense task he had undertaken. Otto's success was as much a result of Johanna's strength as it was of his own political genius. As Otto's role in the German Empire became more entrenched, Johanna's influence remained an essential part of his success. Their marriage, though marked by the inevitable strains of political life, was built on a foundation of mutual respect and shared purpose. Johanna's understanding of Otto's ambition and her unwavering commitment to their family and their country allowed them to navigate the complex and often turbulent waters of German politics together. In these early years of the German Empire, Johanna von Puttkamer's role in the Bismarck family was as crucial as any diplomatic alliance Otto forged or military victory he achieved. Her ability to maintain a sense of normalcy, to manage the family's social and cultural affairs, and to provide Otto with the emotional and intellectual support he needed were key to Otto's ability to shape the future of Germany. She was not a mere bystander in his political life, she was an integral part of his success, and her influence would continue to resonate throughout their marriage and beyond. The year 1890 was a pivotal one for Otto von Bismarck. After nearly 3 decades of shaping the course of European history, Bismarck's political career was suddenly threatened by forces beyond his control. Kaiser Wilhelm II, the young and ambitious Emperor of Germany, sought to assert his own authority and to chart a new direction for the empire, one that would diverge significantly from the course set by Bismarck. The emperor's increasingly erratic and ambitious nature led to a growing tension between the two men, a tension that would ultimately result in Bismarck's forced resignation in March 1890. Bismarck's dismissal marked the end of an era. For Johanna von Puttkamer, this moment was not only a personal shock but a profound change in the course of her life and her role as Otto's closest confidant. For years, she had stood by Otto's side, offering him steady support through both his triumphs and his challenges. Now, as Otto was removed from power by the very emperor he had helped to crown, Johanna found herself in a new and difficult position. It was a moment of great personal and political upheaval, and Johanna's role in Otto's life became more vital than ever. Throughout Bismarck's career, Johanna had been his constant companion, both in his personal life and in the political world. Her quiet influence had been essential to his success, providing him with the emotional strength to confront the myriad challenges that came with his leadership. But now, as Otto faced the loss of power, Johanna's strength was tested in new and unexpected ways. She had always been the steadying force in Otto's life, but now she had to help him navigate a world that no longer seemed to welcome him. In the immediate aftermath of Bismarck's resignation, Johanna provided Otto with the support he needed to process the shock of his removal from power. Bismarck, who had been at the center of European politics for so long, found himself pushed aside by the new emperor who sought to shift Germany's foreign policy and pursue a more aggressive agenda. For Otto, the blow was not just political but deeply personal. He had dedicated his life to the service of Germany, and now, in his later years, he was left to reflect on the empire he had created. Knowing that his influence had been abruptly and decisively cut off, Johanna, who had been through many political upheavals with Otto over the years, was uniquely equipped to support him during this time. She had long been his emotional anchor, the person he turned to when the weight of his political decisions became too great. In this moment, her role as his confidant became even more critical. Johanna offered Otto the compassion and understanding that only a wife could. She reassured him that while his public career had ended, his legacy would remain intact. She reminded him of the empire he had built and the lasting impact he had had on the course of history. However, Johanna's support went beyond mere words of comfort. She also took charge of the practical matters that arose from Otto's retirement. The Bismarck family had grown accustomed to a life of prominence, and their social standing in Germany remained high. Johanna understood that, despite Otto's removal from political office, they would continue to play an important role in the social and cultural life of the empire. She made sure that their family's affairs were in order, maintaining the respect of their peers and preserving the legacy of Otto's work in the public eye. As Otto withdrew from the political stage, Johanna also helped him find ways to fill the void left by his loss of power. She encouraged him to focus on his writing, and Otto began to pen his memoirs, reflecting on his life's work and his vision for Germany. Johanna was instrumental in this process, providing him with the peace and stability he needed to focus on his reflections. The process of writing gave Otto an opportunity to revisit the triumphs of his career and to understand, in his later years, the depth of the changes he had wrought in Europe. Johanna's support, both practical and emotional, was vital during this period. As Otto faced the prospect of life outside the realm of political power, Johanna ensured that he never felt abandoned or irrelevant. She remained by his side, not just as a wife but as a partner in the most difficult chapter of his life. Her influence allowed Otto to reflect on his legacy with a sense of peace, knowing that he had done everything in his power to achieve the unification of Germany. However, Johanna's role during this time was not only about maintaining Otto's emotional well-being. She also recognized the importance of preserving the Bismarck family's position in the German social hierarchy. As the former chancellor of the German Empire, Otto still had significant influence, and Johanna understood that their connections with the aristocracy and other influential families would remain important. She continued to host gatherings and cultivate relationships within the social circles that had been essential to Otto's success. But the public image of the Bismarck family was not the only concern for Johanna. She also worried about Otto's personal health and well-being. As Otto grew older, the physical toll of years of political exertion began to take its toll on his body. Johanna, who had always been his caregiver, continued to manage his health with the same dedication she had shown throughout their marriage. She understood that Otto's mental sharpness and political genius were his greatest assets, and she worked tirelessly to ensure that he remained intellectually engaged even in his retirement. Otto's time away from politics was marked by a certain bitterness. He resented the way in which his removal from power had been orchestrated by Kaiser Wilhelm II, and he never fully reconciled with the new emperor. The sense of betrayal lingered in Otto's mind, and he struggled to come to terms with the fact that his political career had ended in such an abrupt manner. However, Johanna's unwavering support allowed Otto to find peace with his past, even if he could never fully accept his dismissal from power. In the years that followed, Johanna's role as Otto's closest confidant remained unchanged. She stood by him through the trials of old age and political obscurity, providing him with the steady support he had always relied on. Her quiet strength continued to be a cornerstone of Otto's life, helping him to navigate the complexities of his retirement years. As Otto's health continued to decline, Johanna's dedication to him never faltered. She had stood by his side through the triumphs and the defeats, through the rise and fall of the German Empire. And now, as they both entered the twilight of their lives, Johanna remained Otto's most important ally and the source of his emotional strength. The period following Otto's dismissal was one of reflection and renewal, not just for Otto but for Johanna as well. Though their roles had shifted, Otto had gone from the most powerful man in Europe to a retired statesman. Johanna's position remained constant. She was not just the wife of the great Bismarck. She was the woman who had supported him through every challenge, every victory, and every defeat. Her influence, though often unspoken, was felt in every aspect of Otto's life, from his personal reflections to his ongoing role in the social and cultural life of Germany. After his forced resignation in 1890, Otto von Bismarck found himself in an unfamiliar position, one of relative political obscurity. For nearly 3 decades, he had been at the heart of European politics, orchestrating the unification of Germany and playing a pivotal role in shaping the destiny of not only his country but the entire continent. Now, with the rise of Kaiser Wilhelm II and the end of his political career, Otto was forced to step aside and reflect on his legacy. But as he navigated his retirement years, one thing remained constant: the steadfast support of Johanna von Puttkamer. Bismarck's withdrawal from public life was not an easy one. He had spent his entire adult life immersed in the complexities of power and statecraft. For a man who had once held the reins of a powerful empire, the loss of authority was a profound blow. Yet, as much as Otto struggled with this transition, Johanna remained his unwavering source of stability. While the political landscape shifted around them, Johanna was always there to offer the support he needed, helping him to adjust to life without the public spotlight. In the early years of his retirement, Bismarck withdrew to his estates in Pomerania and Friedrichsruh, a small village in Schleswig-Holstein. These were quieter years compared to the bustle of court life and the demands of political office. The Bismarck family's estates had long been places of retreat for Otto, where he could spend time away from the stresses of public life. But now these estates became not just a retreat, but a place where Otto could contemplate his legacy. Johanna, ever the dutiful wife, took on the responsibility of maintaining the household and managing the affairs of their estate. She was the one who ensured that their daily life ran smoothly, overseeing the servants, managing their finances, and keeping up with their social obligations. While Otto focused on his writings, Johanna continued to be the pillar upon which their personal lives were built. Her role was not just that of a caretaker, but also of an intellectual companion. She understood the importance of Otto's memoirs, and she encouraged him to reflect on his life's work. Bismarck had begun writing his memoirs soon after his retirement, attempting to document his version of history and to solidify his place in the annals of German and European history. His writings were part catharsis and part strategy, a way to ensure that his legacy would endure. Johanna's role during this period was more than just that of a supportive wife. She often read the drafts of Otto's memoirs, offering her thoughts and reflections. Her voice, though quiet, was an essential part of the process. She provided him with the emotional reassurance that he needed as he sought to make sense of his political life and the profound impact he had had on the course of history. As Otto spent more time in reflection and writing, Johanna also became more involved in social causes. She recognized that, despite Otto's retirement, their influence as a family could still be leveraged for good. Johanna became an active participant in charitable and cultural initiatives, particularly those related to education and welfare. She took it upon herself to promote the values that Otto had championed during his career, particularly in areas such as education for girls and the improvement of public health. While Otto focused on his legacy in the political realm, Johanna worked to ensure that the Bismarck name was associated with positive social change as well. Despite their retreat from the political center, the Bismarcks continued to be closely observed by the German public and the European powers. Otto, still one of the most influential figures in European history, was often sought after for his opinion on matters of state. Though he no longer held formal power, his thoughts on European diplomacy and the future of Germany were still highly valued. Many sought his counsel, and Johanna often played an understated role in these interactions. She remained Otto's confidant, offering insight into the political landscape from the perspective of one who had been by his side throughout his rise to power. In addition to his reflections on his career, Bismarck also struggled with his own health. The physical toll of years of political struggle and intense public scrutiny began to manifest itself in his later years. Otto, who had once been a force of nature, began to experience the frailties of old age. Johanna, who had long been his emotional support, now found herself taking on an even more active role in caring for Otto's well-being. She managed his medical appointments, ensured that he received the care he needed, and tried to keep him engaged in his intellectual pursuits despite his declining health. Though Otto never fully accepted his retirement from public life, Johanna ensured that his days were filled with meaningful activities. The intellectual vigor that had defined his political career remained, and Johanna encouraged him to continue writing, engaging in correspondence, and offering his thoughts on European affairs. She was not just a caretaker, she was an active partner in ensuring that Otto's mind remained sharp and that he continued to engage with the world around him. The years following Bismarck's resignation were also marked by a growing sense of nostalgia and bitterness on Otto's part. He had been pushed out by Kaiser Wilhelm II, a man whom he had helped to elevate to the throne, and this betrayal was a source of deep resentment for him. Otto could not reconcile the vision he had for Germany with the actions of the young emperor. Yet, despite his resentment, Otto's legacy was secure. The empire he had created, the alliances he had forged, and the diplomatic triumphs he had achieved would remain his enduring contributions to the world. Johanna, ever the stabilizing force in Otto's life, helped him cope with this bitterness. She reminded him of the immense accomplishments he had achieved and the indelible mark he had left on history. Otto had unified Germany, transformed the European political landscape, and reshaped the course of history. While he may have been removed from power, his influence could still be felt across Europe. Johanna's unwavering faith in Otto's legacy provided him with the emotional peace he needed to come to terms with the end of his political career. As Bismarck's health continued to decline, Johanna remained by his side, providing him with the support and care he had always relied on. She continued to be the backbone of their household, ensuring that Otto's final years were filled with the dignity and respect that he had earned throughout his lifetime. Despite the personal and political challenges, Johanna's commitment to Otto never wavered. She remained the constant in his life, the person who had stood by him through the highs and lows of his career and the person who would see him through his final days. In these quiet years of retirement, Johanna's strength was tested once again. Otto, the man who had shaped the fate of nations, now faced the inevitability of his own decline. But through it all, Johanna was there, providing him with the love, loyalty, and stability that had defined their relationship from the beginning. Otto von Bismarck's retirement years were marked by reflection, resentment, and the realization that his public career had come to an end. But through this period of transition, Johanna remained Otto's guiding light, a source of emotional support and unwavering devotion as he faced the twilight of his life. As the final years of Otto von Bismarck's life passed, Johanna von Puttkamer found herself once again in the role she had always played, the quiet strength behind the man who had built the German Empire. After years of political maneuvering, diplomatic brilliance, and historical significance, Otto had entered his twilight years marked by physical decline, frustration with the new political landscape, and the inevitable fading of his public influence. Yet, throughout it all, Johanna remained Otto's most steadfast supporter. As his health deteriorated, Johanna's commitment to him never wavered. The couple had spent decades together, and as Otto's life came to its final chapter, Johanna continued to serve as his confidant, his emotional anchor, and the person who cared for him with a level of devotion that only time and experience could foster. By the late 1890s, Otto's once imposing presence had diminished. The sharp mind that had engineered the unification of Germany now struggled with the frailties of old age. He had long ago given up his role in active politics. But the feeling of being sidelined by Kaiser Wilhelm II still stung him deeply. Despite his previous success and his tremendous impact on the world stage, Bismarck found himself in a position of quiet retreat, no longer the man at the center of power, but a retired statesman whose days were spent reflecting on a legacy that had, for better or worse, been interrupted by forces beyond his control. Johanna, as always, was by his side, managing their daily life, maintaining their estates, and ensuring Otto's physical and emotional needs were met. She was his primary caregiver in these final years, overseeing his medical care and ensuring that his life, although not without its challenges, remained filled with the dignity he had long commanded. The memories of Otto's political triumphs were still fresh in his mind, but the reality of old age was unavoidable. As much as he resented the passage of time and his loss of power, Johanna's presence brought him a quiet comfort, a reminder of the years of shared experiences, love, and unwavering partnership. In these last years, Johanna also dealt with the emotional toll of seeing Otto in such a diminished state. She had been the one to witness his rise to prominence, the one who had supported him through every political battle, and the one who had stood by him when the weight of his empire was at its heaviest. To see him now, no longer the powerful chancellor of the German Empire, but a man struggling with illness, was a bitter reality. However, Johanna's strength was unyielding. She maintained the grace and composure that had defined her life, never allowing Otto to feel abandoned or irrelevant. She encouraged him to continue writing, reflecting on his life's work, and offered her counsel as he grappled with the question of his legacy. Their son, Herbert Bismarck, who had been raised with the expectation that he would carry forward the Bismarck name and legacy, became increasingly involved in his father's life during these final years. However, it was Johanna who remained Otto's central pillar. She kept the family united during a time when it seemed the forces that had shaped their world were dissolving. Otto's relationship with Kaiser Wilhelm II had remained tense, and the political landscape in Germany had changed dramatically. Yet, through it all, Johanna understood the importance of preserving what Otto had fought for: a stable Germany, a unified nation, and a legacy of diplomacy and power that had reshaped the European order. In her later years, Johanna also began to reflect on her own legacy. She had spent the better part of her life supporting Otto and helping to shape the course of German history. Yet, as Otto's health declined, Johanna found herself thinking more about her own role in the world, the contributions she had made, and the ways in which her own strength and influence had helped Otto achieve greatness. She was no longer the young woman who had entered into a political marriage with Otto in 1847, eager to build a family and a future. Now, she was the matriarch of the Bismarck family, tasked with holding together the threads of a legacy that had endured through wars, political upheavals, and the complexities of European diplomacy. As Otto's health worsened, Johanna took on more responsibilities in managing the Bismarck estates. She continued to ensure that the family's affairs were in order, that the estates were well maintained, and that their social obligations were fulfilled. Though Otto's influence in the political realm had waned, their name still carried weight in German society. Johanna worked tirelessly to preserve the family's dignity and to ensure that Otto's legacy would continue to be remembered. Throughout Otto's final years, Johanna maintained her role as his emotional anchor. She knew that, despite the outward calm that he often portrayed, Otto was deeply troubled by the political developments in Germany and his exclusion from the power he had once held. Johanna's role was not just to care for Otto physically, but also to help him navigate the emotional complexities of retirement. She helped him process his feelings of resentment and bitterness toward Kaiser Wilhelm II, offering him a quiet space to reflect on his contributions and the impact he had made on the world. In his final months, Otto, now frail and often bedridden, found solace in his family and in the unwavering presence of Johanna. They had spent over 4 decades together, and in these final days, their bond was as strong as ever. Johanna was his constant companion, the one person who had been with him through every triumph and every challenge. As Otto's health continued to deteriorate, Johanna knew that the time was drawing near. Despite the inevitable sadness of the moment, Johanna remained calm and composed, providing Otto with the comfort and peace he needed as he prepared to face the end of his life. Otto von Bismarck passed away on July 30, 1898, at the age of 83. His death marked the end of an era in German and European history. The unification of Germany, the diplomatic victories, and the legacy of Bismarck's rule were now history. But Johanna's influence on Otto's life and work remained unchanged. In the years after Otto's death, Johanna continued to live with the memory of their shared life and their enduring partnership. After Otto's passing, Johanna retreated from public life, spending her remaining years in the quiet reflection of their estates. She did not seek the spotlight, nor did she desire to carry on Otto's work in a public way. Her role had always been one of quiet influence, and she was content to preserve the legacy of their family in a more private manner. Johanna lived out her remaining years with the same dignity, grace, and devotion that had defined her life alongside Otto. Johanna von Puttkamer passed away in 1900, 2 years after Otto's death. Her life, though less publicly celebrated than Otto's, was marked by the same strength, resilience, and unwavering support that had defined her role in his political career. While Otto may have been the architect of modern Germany, Johanna was the foundation upon which his success was built. Her influence, though often behind the scenes, was as vital to the creation of the German Empire as any political maneuver Otto made. Together, Otto and Johanna had shaped not only the destiny of their family but also the future of a nation. Their legacy lived on, not just in the history books, but in the quiet, enduring bond they had shared throughout their lives. The passing of Johanna von Puttkamer in 1900 marked the end of an era not just for the Bismarck family but for the German Empire itself. In the wake of Otto von Bismarck's death 2 years earlier, Johanna's legacy was intertwined with his, yet her contributions, though often quiet and indirect, were as significant as his bold political achievements. As the woman who had been Otto's partner through his rise to power, his political triumphs, and his personal struggles, Johanna had left an indelible mark on German history. It was not just Otto's grand vision for a united Germany that had shaped the nation, but also the emotional and intellectual support she had provided him through every pivotal moment of his career. Otto von Bismarck may have been the architect of the German Empire, but Johanna von Puttkamer was the foundation upon which that empire was built. Her strength, loyalty, and wisdom shaped Otto's ability to navigate the complex political landscape of 19th-century Europe. Through their long years of marriage, Johanna proved to be his most steadfast confidant, offering him counsel when necessary and providing him with the stability that allowed him to achieve his ambitious goals. Their relationship was not one of simple companionship, but of deep intellectual connection and shared purpose. Together, they forged a legacy that would continue to resonate for generations to come. In the years following Otto's death, the German Empire would continue to evolve under the leadership of Kaiser Wilhelm II. However, the new emperor's reign was a stark contrast to Otto's pragmatic and diplomatic approach. Wilhelm II's more aggressive foreign policies and internal reforms would lead Germany into increasingly precarious situations, setting the stage for World War I just over a decade later. As the empire shifted under new leadership, many look back to the era of Bismarck and the steady hand that had guided Germany to its unification and strength. Though Johanna had long since passed, her role in Otto's legacy continued to be felt by those who knew her and understood the dynamics of their partnership. In their quiet, secluded life in Friedrichsruh, far removed from the corridors of power, Johanna had been the one to keep the family grounded, to preserve the Bismarck name with dignity, and to ensure that Otto never lost sight of his humanity amidst the political storms he weathered. Their estates, which had once been a retreat for the family, now stood as symbols of both their triumphs and their private lives. Johanna's legacy also lived on in her children, particularly in Herbert Bismarck, who, though never reaching the political heights of his father, continued to maintain the family's standing in Germany. Herbert's political career was marked by his efforts to continue his father's legacy, albeit with less success than Otto had achieved. Yet, the lessons Johanna had imparted to him about the importance of family, honor, and duty continued to shape his approach to public life. The Bismarck name, tied as it was to both the creation of a unified Germany and the personal sacrifices made by the family, remained strong in German society. The historical significance of Otto's work could not be overlooked, but Johanna's role was an integral part of that story. Her ability to manage the complexities of their household, to offer Otto the emotional stability he needed, and to maintain their family's social and political connections made her an indispensable figure in the success of Otto's endeavors. As time passed, the story of Otto von Bismarck's rise and fall would be told and retold in history books and lectures. His role in uniting Germany would remain one of the most important achievements in modern European history. But as historians and scholars reflected on his life, they also began to recognize the importance of Johanna von Puttkamer in shaping that legacy. She was more than just a political wife. She was a partner, a confidant, and a force of quiet influence in a world of grand political gestures and ambitions. The Bismarck legacy, now etched in the history of Europe, was a reflection not only of Otto's genius but also of Johanna's resilience and dedication. Her influence may have been less public, but it was no less important. She had been a steady, supportive presence in Otto's life when the weight of ruling a nation, navigating European politics, and managing internal strife became too great for any one man to carry alone. In the years after Johanna's death, the Bismarck name remained associated with a period of strength, unity, and ambition in Germany. While the empire would eventually fall with the end of World War I and the abdication of Kaiser Wilhelm II, The story of Otto and Johanna's partnership would live on in the collective memory of the German people. Their bond, their shared vision for Germany, and their unwavering commitment to each other became a symbol of the strength that is possible when two individuals, each with their own distinct abilities, come together to shape the course of history. Johanna's legacy, as much as Otto's, became a testament to the power of partnership, loyalty, and resilience. She had been the heart of the Bismarck family, providing Otto with the emotional grounding necessary to achieve greatness. And in doing so, she had left an indelible mark on both the history of Germany and the lives of those who knew her best. In the quiet reflection of Friedrichsruh and in the memories of their children and friends, Johanna von Puttkamer's influence continued to be felt. She had, in many ways, shaped not only Otto's political career but also the values that would endure long after the empire she had helped to build had faded into history. Her legacy, though not as visible as Otto's, was every bit as profound.